attention? Rock and roll? Okay. Why is only half of you here? What's going on? Is it something to do with your essays?
It might be.
But where are the ELAS crew? I can only see one.
One ELAS. It's a group.
One representative. Yes. Okay. So we're here. Oh, no, there isn't time. I know we haven't been done mindful breathing recently.
It doesn't look like they're missing it.
Not bad. But
I don't mind.
I think there's quite a lot to get through. So let's pick it up again next week.
Sure.
Yeah, in the seminar.
Yeah.
Yeah? So, internet. And I mentioned already, have I not, how... Now, I realised from speaking to each of you individually about your essays, some of you seem to understand what McGilchrist is saying about the left brain and the right brain, and it's something that each of you will start to realise slowly, individually, in your own way. But the internet, in a way, what we're going to talk about today, digital technology, is the most powerful example of how the left brain is being co-opted by big tech. So the left brain is being co-opted by big tech. And I'm going to start with a quotation before we watch a clip. And here's the quotation. Before the 19th century was over, so do you remember we talked about cinema starting in 1895, so we're talking about roughly that time, the turn of the 19th into the early 20th century, the beginning of the media century. Before the turn of the 19th century was over, the New World's promised land, what's the New World? The New World was the colonized lands of North America, South America, Asia, and Africa, was destroyed by the very forces that had created civilization, the expanded bureaucracy, the conscript army, the centralized state, the slavery, the rise of imperialism. The mechanical world picture produced an environment in which the technological complex, so this is the words of Lewis Mumford in 1970, he talks about the mega machine. Now, the internet is a machine. In the clip that I'm about to show you, that is called The Virtual Revolution, you'll find Dr. Alex Grotowski. No, it's not Alex, well, she kind of agrees, I think, but you hear some big names from big tech, like high up people saying, the internet is like a big brain. It's not. Yes? Do never accept the idea that the internet is intelligent. The more you think, if you think the internet is intelligent, you're losing your own intelligence. Okay? It's almost inversely proportional. So what we are saying here is the power of the internet, and it's not talking historically, it's not a coincidence that the internet arrived after the Cold War, 1990 onwards, when obviously the Berlin Wall came down, the collapse of the Soviet Union, China and the Soviet Union opened up to capitalism. This is the time that social media, big tech, took off. Right? This is not a coincidence, guys. It's not. Where did the tech, the invention, the idea of the internet come from? It actually goes back to the Second World War, the early part of the 20th century. They would started to design computers. But, you know, most of you may not know that, like with most technological inventions, the internet was originally invented as a tool for warfare, i.e. it is a system in which so you can talk to all your allies and your friends when you're at war, and the enemy cannot intercept. That was the design of the internet originally. It was designed for military purposes. We need to remember that, because it's now being used not only for commercial purposes, but for military purposes. So, two questions arise. bearing in mind the left brain and the right brain, bearing in mind the difference between a political economic approach to understanding mass media and a pluralist one. Broadcast, private, individual convergence of legacy media. What the hell does that mean? The internet brings together all the technology into one concentrated, powerful platform, right? Everything that we've talked about, everything that we're going to talk about is available on the internet. News, advertising, film, etc., 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 right? No exaggeration. So that gives it huge power. But does this power, does it give us as individuals more power, or does it give big tech more power? I'm going to let you decide based on the evidence that I'm going to present. Some people talk about the internet as a tool of flattening, of leveling power, creating more freedom and democracy. Political economists talk about the internet being a tool of top-down corporate techno-feudal power, or even authoritarian elitist power. And this year, 2024, there's going to be several big elections in the world. In the US, there's the Iranian elections just coming up, there's the US, there's Britain, there are many, and all of them are going to be affected by social media. I'm not exaggerating. And there's no evidence so far to support the idea that the internet and social media facilitates democracy. It actually is being used covertly by private big tech companies working with governments to undermine democracy. Yeah, so important to recognise that. I mentioned that social media and all the big tech companies like Facebook and Twitter and so on, they all took off in the late 1990s and early 2000s. And we associate internet with globalization, the idea that the world has suddenly become really small, and that it's this idea of the global village, or might I say, the myth of the global village. I don't see much of a village going on right now in the world, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. But the idea is that, and that some of these really clever, techie, white, Western educated men in the 1960s onwards, they really thought that the internet was the answer to the Frankfurt School, a public sphere, separate, independent of private power, commercial power, and state power, where everybody can participate. The internet does still have that potential, believe it or not, but something has gone seriously wrong. Internet is also associated, I beg your pardon, globalization is also associated with movement of people around the world. Look at yourselves, educating yourselves, a long way from home. Increased population flow. So the idea of the internet with our mobile phones, there's the word, mobile, is that you can be anywhere and you can communicate with anyone, anywhere, anytime. Now, that in itself is a miracle. Tell your ancestors from 100 years ago about the internet and they'd say, no, that's crazy, that's just not possible. So we mustn't forget that there is something exciting about the internet. We mustn't take it for granted. But unfortunately, and that theory goes with the theory of Raymond Williams, mobile privatization. What did he mean by that? He was a kind of contemporary of Stuart Hall in the 60s, or his work became popular in the 1960s. And he points out that, I think I've done this already in the course, if you follow the historical trajectory of broadcast media from the early 20th century to now, gradually the media has become more and more privatized. Public cinema was a public experience, a shared public experience. Families used to watch television together. Before there were many channels on TV, people used to watch the same channel at the same time. It was more of a social experience. Then with the advent of the internet and digital media, it's become more and more privatized. We even live now, crazily, it seems weird to say this, families living in the same house often all watch different screens at the same time. People in my family text each other in the same house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought that, and Gareth mentioned that.
And you know Alexa?
Yeah.
Oh my God, people talking to this machine like it's a real person, like that sat nav voice, that woman's voice, it can be a man, but it's usually a woman, is kind of creepy,
That's true.
isn't it?
It's creepy.
I don't know, that's just me. But anyway, so actually what Raymond Williams is arguing among, and it goes with a political economic argument, is that the internet and globalization actually caused the disruption of local communities because individual agency has become more important than society, than social mores and social values. Now, some of you may already know the work of Benedict Anderson, those of you that studied culture studies with me and Andrew before. So this is the idea that a nation is an imagined community. A nation is a mediated community. You know your Korean, you know your Japanese because of all the mediated information that you're given through education and through your national media. So the idea of nationalism is strongly supported by the internet as well. Okay, so I'm going to try to give you a pluralist perspective of the internet. No, I'm not. I'm going to give you a clip next, and then we'll go to the pluralist perspective. So I've actually got 4 clips today. I don't know if there'll be time to watch all of them. But this one is quite old, and it goes back about 15 years. I think this documentary was made by Alex Grotowski, who, she's a pluralist. She works at London School of Economics. She's a journalist. And she made, sorry, I keep pressing the wrong one. She made this documentary called The Virtual Revolution. She argued in her documentary that the internet was a powerful tool of democracy and bottom-up people power, okay? And I'm just going to show you the first few minutes. And, you can make up your own minds, but the way I look at this documentary now is it just looks like an advert for big tech. But you can decide for yourselves.
World Wide Web brought the great levelling its early pioneers dreamed of. Dr. Alex Grotowski investigates the virtual revolution now on BBC Two and on BBC HD.
Africa, the birthplace of mankind. But it's not the past that brings me here, it's the future. Africa has just been plugged into broadband. And as the World Wide Web grows and spreads across the continent, it's transforming all that it touches. The small town of Abiriu in Ghana is just one of the latest to be hooked up to the globe. I'm traveling with Sir Tim Berners-Lee, the man who invented the web. It's 20 years since he made
Have you heard of Tim Berners-Lee? He's a British guy, and it's very important to make this distinction. He invented the World Wide Web that was supposed to be cooperative and open and free. And that project has been killed by capitalism. But he's brilliant. He's like he's a proper, good, he's got a scientific background, but his values are very much the values of Habermas and the Frankfurt School and open sharing of information without allowing the dominance of state or commercial power. Yeah, he's worth checking out actually. I don't know what he's been doing recently.
this breakthrough. And now the divide between the digital haves and have-nots is shrinking fast.
I think the web is about connecting humanity. Now we've got to the point that 20-25% of the world are using it, and suddenly the question is, what about the other 80%?
This community center may not look like much, but it's the new frontier of this virtual revolution.
It was a little bit like going back in time to when people first came across the web. We wouldn't, in the early days, days have been anything like it, presumptuous, as to say, how can we make sure this gets to the furthest reaches of rural Africa?
But what exactly is it that we've created for the last 20 years? What does it mean? Is our wired digital world a blessing or a curse?
If the web does take root in Africa, as it has done elsewhere, then this will be the next continent to be reshaped by the digital revolution. web
Cue
affect
the Hollywood
us
music.
20 years since it was
Yeah,
created.
you know.
And what does that mean for the future of the people here and the majority of the world who aren't yet connected?
The web is the defining technological revolution of our lifetimes. Almost 2 billion of us are now online.
It's a lot more than that
And in
now.
the 10 years that I've been studying the web and writing about it as a journalist, I've seen it take our world and shake it apart. The web has created unimaginable wealth, yet encouraged millions to work for nothing. It's challenged authority, yet allowed regimes to spy and censor as never before. And it's been blamed for creating a generation of web addicts. It opened up new realms of knowledge. In this series, I'll be meeting all the pioneers and key players. Everybody from Google to Facebook, Twitter to Amazon. The people who've helped bring about the seemingly unstoppable leveling of power, culture, and values that's having such an impact on all of our daily lives.
So no mention of cultural imperialism, no mention of capitalism. Yeah?
But interestingly, she was standing next to the U.S. Army plane.
Exactly.
Well, the web is how
Yeah.
mankind communicates.
Bill Gates is the bad guy, Berners-Lee is the good guy.
Nowadays.
It's like the internet has become a brain. It's the smartest brain in the world.
It is an empowering tool that has more potential than any other that human civilization has ever developed.
The world is just going to keep on getting more and more open. There's going to be more information available about everything.
This is
I don't know if you've seen Mark Zuckerberg recently, but he's actually starting to look like a robot.
It's astounding technology, and we should just take a moment to celebrate the power and the reach that it gives us.
And so this is the story of the web. But it's more than that. This is also the story of how the web is remaking our world.
This time.
So, that's the most positive pluralist perspective on the internet that I want to share with you. And elements of it are true, and elements of it are literally, as McGilchrist would put it, deluded. Right, so back to the notes.
Also, if you notice the choice of words they were using, like power, and because they were using the choice of words that were really strong.
Very good. So you can see the advertising thing, the propaganda thing, the ideology coming through. Absolutely. Look, it's not an exaggeration to say, I've experienced this firsthand as a media studies, maybe not a conventional media studies academic, because I haven't published loads, but it's, if you want to get ahead in the media, and remember this if you study media, in the media scholarship world, if you study digital technology, they'll throw money at you. If you say bad things about digital tech, they won't. So it's that simple, right? Remember that, guys. Don't learn from my mistakes. Anyway, here we go. So, from a pluralist perspective, technology dissolves the boundary of space and time, which is, as I said to you before, just now, that's according to John Thompson, who used to work for LSE. It's like magic. It's like a magic trick. Global Village, instantaneous, algorithm-assisted global financial flows. I've already mentioned globalization. The main use of the internet is financial. It enables transactions to take place instantaneously from Beijing to Washington to Riyadh, blah, blah, blah. Yeah? The main use is moving money around the world. What other good things can we say from a pluralist perspective? Global association. So it enables you on a global scale to associate with people that you would never meet, to virtually associate. So if you have particular interests or particular political interests or anything, you can contact people And that's clearly a good thing.
Yeah.
That's clearly a good thing. So, and yeah, so shared interests, shared hobbies, that's theorized by Howard Rheingold. And what Rheingold also argues is that sometimes you can migrate from the internet, so you can meet somebody on the internet, you can make friends, and then meet them in real life. And that's a good thing. That's the idea, isn't it? And I'm sorry to have to mention it, but dating is one of those things. And a lot of people today, they meet people through the internet, which, yeah, you can decide for yourself. So whether that's a good idea or not.
Good or bad.
But believe you and me, somebody who's done a little bit of it, it's just like being in a meat market where everybody's pretending to be, and then you meet somebody, you think, you're not the same person, right?
I can imagine.
Do you see the problem? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah? So, you know, again, if you want to be somebody you are not, if you want to change your identity, you can be what you want online. It's anonymous half the time. You know, which comes with a whole set of very serious problems and risks. But the good side, the flip side, the good side is, you know, if you're a minority, if you're a stigmatized social identity, if you are, you know, because of your sexual orientation or your color or your race or your ethnicity, you're in a minority, so you don't feel that you fit into your immediate society, you can feel connected with people through the internet who are like you, who are also maybe stigmatized in minorities. Again, it's a good human thing. The next point is this. For all of you in this class, you know, imagine what it would be like for